Seth, hello. Good morning.
Good morning, Christine. It's great to be with you today.
It's wonderful to be with you. I am so excited. We got on a call a week or two ago, and we're talking about something entirely different when I came to discover that you grew up in the trades. And with
Yes.
TheCraft&Calling and the community that we're building here, my family goes back. I'm the fourth generation of a business that was started in 1922, so 100
Mm,
plus years. And so I just have such a strong affinity for anyone in the trades, but also it's almost like anyone who grew up on a sports team, you just have a different mentality and approach to we
yes.
operate as a team. And that is it, that changes the way and manner in which you approach business, life, family, etc. So anyone who grew up in the trades, in the trenches, is really someone that I want to talk to, because whether you're still doing that now, I reached out to a woman yesterday, or I guess it was a week ago, about being on the show, and she actually sold and exited her business. Yet I still want to know, because the mindset is there,
Mhm.
the tricks of the trade are there, and that's what exactly I want to talk about. So Seth, who are you? And tell us about your trade.
Yeah, I grew up in the trades. My dad was a general contractor, and he taught me construction, residential construction, from foundation to finishing.
Mm,
And um, that really formed a lot of my skill set. One of the things I really appreciate about the trades is the problem solving skills that you
mhm.
learn, and a lot of those problem solving skills, trying to accomplish a job when you don't happen to have the right tool that day, and you don't have an hour to run to the supply store and get one, and you just need to get the job done. Okay, how
Yes.
are we going to do it? And creativity loves constraints. And so the
Mhm.
trades really give you the opportunity to let that creativity blossom.
What a line. Creativity loves constraints. Tell me about your childhood. Were you frequently going with your dad to job sites, or did you worked for the company at some point, but like what was the evolution and kind of the genesis of you being involved, and at what age did you start?
Sure. I started on the job site probably at age 11 or 12
Wow.
in a part time capacity. So um, I grew up homeschooled, which I
Okay.
absolutely loved. I loved my education, but that gave me a lot of flexibility
Yes.
to learn occupational skills.
Yes.
So I was um, beyond the apprentice stage by the time I graduated from high school. That was how
Wow.
much my dad taught me in that process.
Wow. And what a blessing that is, Seth. Honestly, there's something, a family I used to know, they grew up and they were homeschooled, and their education was actually starting, I think, in 10th grade or maybe younger. They started going to community college. So they graduated
Oh,
with an
sure.
associate's degree. And
Yeah,
it's just, man, it's such a different level of, we think about this is going all the way back, but thinking about our public education system today, so much of it was designed for training people to become the factory workers that they needed back in the
absolutely.
early
Yep,
1900s. And so if we think about the moving outside of that and actually positioning ourselves for, okay, being an entrepreneur, starting
hmm,
our own business, even being able to problem solve, to your point, rather than just being fed information, but I'm going to teach you how to utilize your mind in such a way that allows for real adept problem solving, whether it's with your hands and kind of the dexterity thereof, or whether it's, honestly, I was homeschooled as well, but I went to a classical school as well, kind of like part-time, and we learned Latin and Greek and debate, and it was almost
oh
like
yes,
problem solving with the mind through verbal execution. So
absolutely.
it was a very different approach to problem solving, but it was still very much so in line with that whole theme of what are we going to do?
Yes, and a lot of this centers around the idea of a self-directed education. A
Mm,
self-directed education is not encouraged in our public education system, unfortunately. But whether you're in a private setting or in a homeschool setting, the self-directed education, or the ability to decide, okay, I want to learn a certain topic, or I want to learn a certain skill,
mm,
whether it's something like Latin, And I took Latin in school, and I don't remember any of it, but it improved my English tremendously.
Yes.
That was the biggest benefit out of that, is my English became better just through exposure to a structured language system, because unfortunately, English is not very structured. And
Any sense, like when you're trying to explain it to a foreigner coming in and trying to learn our language, I'm like, I'm sorry, it's so confusing.
yep, here's the rule, but here's the 10 exceptions that
I
go with
know
it.
the 10 exceptions. Oh my gosh. Well, and Latin is the root of the Romantic languages, Spanish,
Absolutely.
French. And so and even in Italy, I just came back from Italy, and I was in France as well before that. And it was funny because when I was in Italy, I really had done hardly any research on the language or study. And so I was like, I'm just going to start speaking some Spanish. And they all understood me. And I was like, oh, great. Like, I know it wasn't perfect, but they understood me far better than if I was speaking English to them.
Sure,
So
absolutely.
it was fun to have some semblance of overlap just because of that root of Latin that ties
Yep.
and integrates these languages together.
Yes, absolutely.
So to this whole point of self-directed education, did you find that the tools that you used at home to be self-taught, did you find that you use those on like in the work field to actually
Oh,
self-
absolutely. And that's a key part of like the next phase of my journey.
Mm,
As I graduated high school, I joined a professional development training company that I participated with for 15 years.
mm,
And again, their entire ethos was around self directed education. So even though I was in blue collar, I was in the trades, and that gave me a great root, a great foundation.
right.
I always had aspirations to go beyond that. Not that I didn't love the work, it's
Mm,
that I wanted freedom.
mm,
And if you go back to Robert Kiyosaki's writing, particularly his book, The Cash Flow Quadrant, he
mm,
talks about the different core values that are associated with each of the different cash flow quadrants: employee, self employed, business owner, and investor. And I always wanted to be in the business owner quadrant, not necessarily because I wanted to be rich, but because I wanted to be free. And so a huge amount of my journey revolves around that. And I think there's something really powerful in connecting the middle America, the blue collar, the work with your hands. Um, like I love that foundation, and I never want to let that
yes,
go. But combining that with the entrepreneurial thinking,
yes.
and self-directed education, it has allowed me to really start to build my life in the way that I always wanted to build it.
Wow, I love this. So really blending honestly, the grassroots values of the blue collar with the entrepreneurial self-directed mind. That is incredibly powerful. And I really believe every person needs to experience both of those, whether they are an entrepreneur or in the blue collar or both, right? You can be an
Yes,
entrepreneur
absolutely.
with a blue collar business. However, it's really like the lessons that transcend down from both occupations and pursuits, because there is
Absolutely.
something about working with your hands. Speaking of Italy, when I was there, I did a workaway, and I had never
Mhm.
even heard of this, but there's literally a website, I believe it's workaway.com, and I found a whole litany of families and farms and vineyards across the world where you can go and exchange a couple hours of your time for their existing with them, their car, their food,
Wow,
lodging. And
that's amazing.
it was such an incredible experience. And I was in the vineyard, literally hoeing the vineyards. And it was such a good experience of working with your hands. And so few people actually get the ability to do that. It feels
Mhm.
almost, it almost felt like a luxury to me to be able to go and do that and experience it for 5 days and then go back to sitting on the couch comfy behind my computer. And there's some, and then we look at the people who are literally in the trenches every day. I was driving past a construction site the other day when I was in Arizona on kind of making my way home. And, you know, these folks are outside, it's 109 degrees. They're wearing their construction gear and it is so hot. There is a quality of character that must exist in order to
Yes,
withstand those circumstances, and the
absolutely.
ability to work hard.
Yes, absolutely. And, I have 4 young boys, and one of my goals for them is to experience both worlds. Like,
Yeah.
I want them out there working in 100 degrees, and you just feel like you wanna quit, but your
Yes.
shift's not over yet, and you gotta get the job done. And the character that develops, like, you have to go through hard things. Hard
Yes.
things make you stronger.
Yeah.
And if you're always seeking comfort or the
Mhm.
easiest path, you're not going to be as good of a person as you would be if you go through the hard stuff.
Yeah.
There's so many great things to the blue collar world, and if someone's never been in blue collar work with their hands, they've always been, in a management or academia or something. Like, there is something um, restorative to the soul
Yes. Oh, I love that you just said that.
to go out and work with your hands
Yes.
and leave behind the mental work for a while and
Mm,
just work with your body.
mm,
It's the same reason that we go out and we experience nature. It's grounding. Um, and at the same time, the entrepreneurial or the white collar work or the mental work that has all of its own benefits.
yes.
um, in that a lot of times when I was on a construction site, like, it is gratifying to complete a project and see the before and after pictures,
Right.
but sometimes it can feel monotonous.
Right.
Sometimes you feel a lack of fulfillment. And going into white collar and interacting with people
Mm,
can bring a level of fulfillment that is sometimes hard for the trades to supply.
mm. Man, what an interesting concept of really employing lessons from both. And it's okay, well, how would I even go about experiencing both elements? To your point previously about the ability to almost be free from the mental clutter that is existing in kind of that white collar space where really you're employing your mind at every second of the day for the most part.
Yes.
Whereas when you're out working in the trenches, and I just kind of like that phrase, right? It's very tactile work. Um,
Yes.
and there is something about, so Harvard did a study where they had two different control groups. One was had a task where they were planning for the future and looking ahead, and the other party was being, it was very hands-on in the moment task that they were employed with. So one was planning for the future task, and one was engaging with the task at present. And they found they were testing honestly kind of that the happiness of both groups, and the group that was hyper present, engaged with the task at hand, their level soared compared to those who were
Mm,
future thinking. And it was so interesting because so much of our lives is predicated on the future or the past. And these blue collar businesses have the incredible opportunity to engage in tasks that are right here, right now. I can see
yep.
progress from here to here within a matter of 8 hours of work, and it's such a blessing, and it really does, to your point, ground us. And it's then lends to the question of, okay, well, how do I intentionally create these experiences for me, for my family? You said you're 4 boys. How do we create the environment where, sure, maybe that's not your actual job, but how do I create these environments for them to experience that? I remember growing up, my dad would have every Saturday was working outside, and we would mow the grass, we would hedge well, trim the hedges, and we would be super engaged with our hands around the house. And he would take us to job sites and we would paint the bedroom, and we would be
Mhm.
really engaged in the business itself. And we would do the same type of things, hanging pictures and leveling things, because it was our family business is a painting business and drywall.
Mhm.
So there's something about how do we create those experiences for our families and our children. Maybe that's a mission trip. Maybe that's actually going to another country
Yes.
and helping build something. So we're not now, it's not focused about us. It's not about me anymore,
Mm-hmm.
especially for these young kids where it is AC, any pantry stocked, thank God. You know what I mean? Like there's, whether it's healthy food or not, that's besides the question. But for most people in America, they're not. Well, and I want to be careful even how I say this. I don't know the statistics of how many people are actually dependent. I know that when COVID happened, a lot of kids were dependent on the school meals. So
Yes.
considering that we're all in school,
Mm-hmm.
and for the adults, they are self-sufficient.
Mm-hmm.
Considering that we have food, we've got AC, we have our very most basic needs met plus some. So how
Yes.
do we go curate pain of the physical labor to cultivate character? What have you found with your boys?
That's such a great question. And speaking to, the adult audience, I would say just expand your horizons.
Mm,
Don't allow yourself to be boxed into what exists. What exists right now is what's always going to be, because that it doesn't have to be that way. If your life is in a rut, like, shake it up, make a
yeah.
change. Um, for example, just a experience in my life going back, what was this, 5 years ago, five,
Mm,
a little bit more than that. Um, I was working at a construction company that it was great company, great people. I loved my boss. I still love this guy. I see him every once in a while, and I'm always glad to see him. But I was in a rut. I'm like,
mm,
I got to make a change. Like, I didn't feel like my heart wasn't in my job at that point. I didn't feel like I was giving my boss an honest day's
mm,
work for what he was paying me. It's like I got to make a change just for integrity standpoint. So I'm like, do something else, and I quit my job. We moved 8 hours away, and I started doing 100% commission sales. Was
wow.
was it scary? Like, I never thought I'd leave the hometown that I was in, but
My
we
God.
left my hometown. Like, just shake it up, make a change. And then just speaking to the children, and like what parents can do for their kids, maybe the first principles approach there is to realize that as parents, the ultimate goal is not occupational success. Like, I
Mm,
I've taken care of multiple aging family members,
mm,
and the most valuable thing for them was the family and the relationships around them at the end. It wasn't how
wow.
much money they had, it wasn't where they lived. It was
Yeah.
all about the relationships. And
Mm,
so when I'm raising my boys, I want the relationship that I have with them and they have with me, something that is the most valuable thing that we have together. I want them to grow up not so much to be my kids, but to be my peers and my friends.
mhm.
So, not that I'm always lording, the dad role over them. I want them to grow up into capable young men that raise their own family. And
Yeah.
so it's not for me, how much money can I make just to provide them all the stuff?
Mm,
It's more about, okay, what are the experiences that I can provide them? How can I help grow their character? So,
mm,
for example, instead of working 80 hours a week, I work 40 hours a week. I spend more time with them,
yeah.
and we live out in the country intentionally.
Yes.
So, there's a lot of things that might not make a lot of financial sense. Like, it's not like the financially most efficient way to do it, but I
Yes.
do it because it helps grow my boy's character. For example,
Mm,
we supplement with wood heat where I live, and we live on acreage and we have trees, and so we'll go out and we'll cut firewood.
I
And
love that.
yeah, and the boys, they'll carry the chunks of wood piece by piece up the hill to the woodshed so that we can split them. Is it efficient? Is it logical? Would it not be a better use of my time just to work a couple more hours and purchase propane for heating?
Right,
Yeah,
right.
that would be the financially more efficient thing to do. That's not the point.
Yes.
The point is to build character into my children.
Mm.
So that's like for me, that's the philosophy that I take to that approach. And then to expand on that, it's not just the physical things, but then also teaching them to um, that mental work
Right.
pays better than physical work. So
Mm.
they're just getting into the point where they're reading, and it's not going to be too long here. And I'm going to pay them for reading books and giving me an oral or written report because, and I'm going to pay them more for that than I am physical tasks around the house, whether it's
Mm.
firewood or whether it's um, building something or mowing the grass or whatever. They'll get paid for that. Absolutely. They can earn money that way. They're going to get paid more for growing their mind,
Mm.
for growing their muscles outside.
What an interesting approach. I love this. I love your point about it's perhaps not as financially lucrative, but and also, I mean, those are the memories, that
Oh,
they
absolutely.
I was reading this book called Die with Zero, and it's effectively looking at your bank as in what are the experiences in my bank versus
Yes.
the dollar signs. And
Yes.
Die with Zero is truly spend your money so that at the end of your life, you don't have tons of dollars sitting in the bank, but you rather have a whole list of experiences that you can look back on and drive so much pleasure in. And part of the premise of this book is that with every aging person he had ever encountered, so much of them were looking to the past and being like, oh, I remember when this, and I remember, oh, my children, all of these wonderful, fond memories. However, if we're hoarding the money that would allow for those memories to be made, or making even the conscious decision on efficiency. But then the question at the end of the day is, okay, well, what are my values? And
Yes.
that so many people don't actually take the time to really bang those out. What are my values that then lead my life?
Absolutely. And our culture doesn't encourage that. Our culture
Mhm.
encourages busyness and distraction. And it
Yeah.
takes hard work to sit down and think, what's important to me. And
Mm.
sometimes that process takes time. And
Yeah.
it's not easy to do. But I love your point there. That goes back to Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, and
Yes.
talking about um, those that have actualized experiences. And I'm
Mm.
going to paraphrase here. I apologize that I can't get the exact quote. Um, but when you actualize an experience, you are storing it safely in your memories of the past, and that can never be taken away from you.
Wow, I do not remember that line. That is so powerful and I love it. It's safely stored and no one can take
Yes.
it away from you. That was one thing. That book is so incredibly powerful for those of you who haven't read it. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. It's effectively his experience in the concentration camp. And when all of your freedom and almost like what makes you human is stripped away. And Seth, this is actually kind of interesting because looking at where we are today, sure, we don't have concentration camps stripping our humanity, but we do have something very big threatening what has allowed for us to find meaning and derive meaning out of life, which is our jobs and our careers.
Yes.
Well, AI
Yes.
coming in and stripping away a lot of what we have spent our life's work doing, and they're doing it better than us. And so
Hmm.
it begs the question of, well, who are we? And so for our children, we're raising them for a future which we have no idea what it will look like, what jobs are even going to be available
Hmm.
in the next 10 to 20 years. And so the character is something that is invaluable and no one can take that
Yes.
away from you.
Yes, absolutely. And AI is going to be a radical shift in our world. And uh, I think one of the big uh, paradigm shifts is going to be the focus on, okay, AI took over these monotonous, repetitive tasks, or
Yeah.
however it all works out. it's just going to accentuate the human desire for fulfillment.
Yeah. Interesting. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? I haven't heard that angle. I love
Well,
it.
so human beings derive, we're designed to be social creatures.
Yeah.
And so the human to human interaction, and I know that there's going to be like AI is going to attempt to simulate a lot of this. In fact, there was a news blurb that I heard last week about a guy that was so in love with his AI assistant that he
Oh
asked her
God.
if she would marry him. And he has a significant other and a 6-year-old boy. And so, like, this whole kind of thing where just
Oh
like any
no.
other technology, it can
Oh
warp
God.
the human experience. So that's on the bad side.
Right.
But on the good side, it's just the realization that there's going to be things that AI can't do.
Mm.
And the human to human interaction, the handshake, the hug, the let's get together for coffee, like
Yeah.
there's value to that a computer is never going to be able to replace.
Right. Right.
So I believe the businesses that will thrive in the next 10 to
Mm.
15 years are the ones that combine the efficiency of AI in their operations
Hmm.
while growing the high touch human part in
Yes.
parallel with it. It's going to take
Yes.
both. One to maintain the,
Mm.
because and one of the things that I do is voice AI solutions for businesses.
Mm.
And you have a virtual receptionist that answers a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
They do a great job at that. Within 5 years, that's going to be ubiquitous within the business world. And
Right.
it's going to, like, everyone's going to understand that that's just how you run a business.
Mm.
But there's still going to be, it's going to magnify the human desire for connection, because you're
Yes.
talking to a computer. All right, I want to have an experience with a person.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
it's going to take both.
I absolutely love that. So to this point, thinking about our construction businesses, our home service businesses that perhaps have not even thought of AI, and this desperate need to bring AI in and
Mhm.
also really maintain the integrity of those customer experiences, because frankly, those are the ones that help with retention. They're the ones that help to prevent canceled projects and jobs. One of
Mhm.
the clients that I was looking at and supporting recently was a foundation repair and waterproofing business. They lost 11% of jobs just by cancellation. And so much of that was the
Mhm.
lack of human connection.
Yes.
So what do you advise in terms of like low entry AI tools to supplement some of their businesses? And then also, what are the customer touch point needs that they could really focus on to help solidify the experience in general for their
Sure.
customers?
Absolutely. Um, so of course it depends on the size of the home service business. Let's just say you're talking, a mom and pop place with just a couple employees. When you're at that size,
Mm,
there's going to be different needs at different sizes of businesses. So
right.
at that super small size business where you're wearing multiple hats, you're doing bookkeeping, you're doing the job, you're doing the sales, you're doing HR, all your employee
Right.
management. There's going to be certain things that you need. First one is, let's just make sure that we plug the holes in the bucket. So,
Mm,
for example, speed to lead. It's really hard to answer the
yes.
phone when you're the one on the job site doing the painting, when you're running the nail gun. You you just can't put the tools down to answer the phone
Right.
call, in the middle of the day. Okay, so how can you make sure that, okay, you got a lead coming in, someone's calling you, they want to give you business. How do we make sure they don't slip through the net?
Right.
So that's where a voice AI or a missed call text back type service can really be
Right.
beneficial because the potential customer feels, oh, they responded to me.
Yes.
If they don't get a response, they're going to move on to the next person on the Google listing, or however they came across finding you, they're going to move on because they have something
Mm,
that they want to get done. So that's the first one. When you get a little bit bigger and say you're like maybe more focused on, maybe you have a crew, you're not working in the field so much, you're taking care of the administrative and the sales, then it becomes a game of, okay, how can I set up my process in such a way that the process doesn't let someone down?
mm,
So I have sales. Maybe you've gotten to the point where you have a dedicated sales guy. How can I build this process in such a way that customers don't drop out? And
yes.
sometimes it's just easy to look at your sales and say, oh man, we're losing 11% of our appointments due to this specific issue. How can we upgrade our process so that that doesn't happen? And that's
Mm,
going to be different for every company because every company has, their own specific strengths and weaknesses, because each of your employees has their own specific strengths and weaknesses.
yes.
But then it's a game of, how can I make a predictable process for my customers? Because
Yes.
customers love predictability. And
Mm,
and it's just this weird thing about us humans. We would rather a predictable crappy result than a uh, sporadic fantastic result. That,
isn't that
that's
the
why
truth?
we go to McDonald's.
That is such a good example. I was talking with someone about that literally yesterday. This is so funny you brought that up. Yes, I completely agree. Oh my gosh. So your advice, I completely agree. So I was calling for air conditioning, and I called first the company that was referred to me. They didn't answer. I next called to the highest rated Google review. They didn't answer. I continued to call literally now just down the list at like I didn't want to go with the 2 to 3 star company, but I was now willing to settle for, 4.9, 4.7, 4.2. And then I got an automated text back. And then I stopped because I at least heard from someone.
Yep.
So it doesn't have to be something fancy. It doesn't have to be something hard or difficult. It doesn't even need to be that expensive. But having an automated text back, guys, that can save your business. That can save from the lead going to the next
Oh,
company.
absolutely. I mean, how hard is it to get a new customer? For a home service business, it takes a lot of time, a
Yeah.
lot of money,
Yes.
um, a lot of effort to add a new customer. Don't throw all of that away by not following through.
One other thing that I noticed, so for this home foundation repair and waterproofing company, we were executing a tactic in a new region. And we were getting a decent number of clicks and calls on our ads, but we weren't seeing the appointment set. And we were like, what is going on? Because we're seeing a similar engagement. They're actually calling us, but there's no appointment. So what is happening between the call and the appointment? Well, I went in and I started listening to the voice messages. And because a lot of the people in this particular region were calling after hours, after
Mm,
5:30 p.m. Well, a lot of people are paying attention to their home when they're home. They're not home
yes.
during the day. So that's number one.
Yes.
Number two was I went in and I intentionally went and listened. Now I'm serving as fractional chief marketing officer, right? But I couldn't justify why we were seeing a difference in spend. And I asked the appointment center, hey, what's going on? No one had any reason for me. So I went in and picked up the phone and listened to the voice messages. Come to find out, there were 2 voice messages on repeat that the customer had to listen to. And at only 43 seconds after listening to both of these repeated messages, could they then leave their message. So there were 2 different voicemails that they had to get through from the company, which was a mistake. And so people were dropping off at 30, 37 seconds before getting to the 43 seconds. So they were calling and they literally did not want to wait. I wouldn't want to wait. I'm going to call
Mm-hmm.
somebody else. One, you didn't answer. And two, I can't even get to the voice message machine to leave the message until 43 seconds. That's a long time, y'all.
That's a
And
very long time.
we see it with TikTok. People do not have much patience. So, are we making the experience as easy as possible? Is it easy for our customers to convert? Is it easy for them
Mhm.
to, if they have to leave a voicemail, is it easy for them to do that? And then what's our callback time? You
Yep.
know, we have to really pay attention to some of these aspects, and some of these AI tools actually really do make it relatively easy. So, Seth, what is your favorite tool for automated text messages?
My favorite tool is the AI tool supplied by GoHighLevel.
Mm-hmm.
They have a fantastic suite of tools. And I think the thing that I appreciate about the company most is that they're such a development first
Yes.
company. They didn't even have AI tools available a year ago.
I
And
didn't know it was that recent.
yes, it's very recent. Their voice AI product only rolled out in October of 2024.
Wow. Wow.
So there's a lot of, and what I see in a lot of my clients is the desire to go after, the newest whiz bang tool, and I would caution people against that.
Yes.
There, if you're always trying to be on the cutting edge tool, and you're making a jump from this tool to this other tool that happens to be cutting edge, you're never giving yourself enough runway to implement something that's going to be profitable.
Yeah.
Yes, you have to be adaptive. Yes, you have to pivot with the marketplace. But running after a fancy tool just for the sake of a fancy tool is not really going to help you out. Um, so there's other fancy tools out there, and maybe for specific applications that's appropriate for different businesses at different times. But I've just been very happy with high levels tools, and
Good.
because they're development centered, I know that if something's lagging behind, I'm confident they're going to catch up within 12 months.
And just for those who are not familiar with Go High Level, can you share a little bit about just Go High Level in general, and then also give an example? You and I actually met serving a particular home service business.
Yes.
So, do you mind sharing about High Level, and then also what are some of the things that this company or any other home service company using Go High Level that you've seen and supported on how they've gone about utilizing this tool to really enhance the customer experience?
Oh, sure. I would say for home services, because those of us with that background, um, like technology isn't the trade's favorite thing. We're
Mm-hmm.
more into like, oh man, DeWalt came out with a new drill.
Yes.
Like that's the kind of technology that us construction guys like. We aren't thinking about software systems.
Yes.
That's just not in
Good
that
point.
world. And so the biggest benefit, if I could speak to those in home services and say, how much time do you spend um, writing stuff down on paper and then
Mm,
transferring it to another piece of paper? How many
mm,
times does that piece of paper get lost? What
mm,
if you never had to worry about losing a piece of paper? What if you didn't have to copy something from this piece of paper to that piece of paper? That's what a tool like Go High Level can handle for you. Um, what if you didn't have to worry about, oh man, I forgot to call so and so back?
yes.
Um, what if there was a software system that either could um, do that for you
Mm,
or make sure that you didn't forget?
mm,
There's so much in the home service world that we're just doing as if it's still the 1980s,
mm.
or you graduated from all of that and you run your entire business on your smartphone. And there's a lot of contractors that do that. And the smartphone was revolutionary for home services simply because you didn't have to get a landline to call the supply store and say, "Hey, do you have such and such in stock?"
Mm,
Now we go on our phones and we look up Lowe's or Home Depot or, whatever your local supply store is, and you see if they have the product online.
right.
And you either place the order online or you call them up and say, "Hey, I need 10 pieces of this."
Yes.
And you didn't have to leave the job site. That was revolutionary for
Mm,
home service businesses. Um, Now, with the advent of a tool like GoHighLevel, so GoHighLevel, if you're not familiar with it, is an all-in-one marketing and automations software. And there's a lot of different softwares out there like it. Many people haven't heard of GoHighLevel simply because of how they structure their marketing, but I'm sure everyone has heard of Salesforce.
mhm.
Salesforce is the biggest in the industry, but they're really designed for really large companies. GoHighLevel is Salesforce for the small to medium sized businesses. The learning curve is smaller, it's much easier to use, it's less complex than Salesforce. And what it allows you to do is take your customer journey from marketing to lead acquisition, to sales,
Mm,
to um, operations, to follow up marketing, and put it all in one system, all in one pipeline, so that you have a way not only of being more efficient about how you acquire customers, but being um, being very specific about marketing to existing customers, because
mhm.
an existing customer is much easier to resell than a new customer. It's just keep the customers that you have. Um,
Keep them happy. Don't have those canceled jobs.
yep. And so Go High Level is just one of many available tools nowadays that can help you um, economize, um, make your business more efficient, and really allow you to be more productive with the same amount of work.
Mhm. I love that description of it. And it really is, it can really serve as a one-stop shop for, Seth, you were talking about the customer journey, and it is the second a customer reaches out, they go into Go High Level. And
Hmm.
then it's every single step that they take. We have now visibility into it. You know,
Yes,
the salesman, their interaction with the lead before they become a customer is in there. All the emails that are sent, even phone calls and text messages that go out are housed, and it's all within what's called a customer record. And so
yes,
that customer record, it's like a profile and a data house for this particular person, and it allows for so much care towards that customer.
oh,
So
absolutely.
salesman calls, they can look back and see what were the concerns that they even came in with to begin with. So when they show up to Jody's house, they're like, "Jody, I saw that this is the problem that you had," rather than just relying on hopefully the person who answered the phone took good enough notes.
Yep.
You know what I
Oh,
mean? Now we can record the conversation, all of that.
I love that point because there's nothing more frustrating for me as a customer than to be
Yes.
dealing with the company and
Oh,
have to reiterate my concerns or my
over and over
problems or my preferences over and over again.
It is so
Absolutely.
frustrating. And it
Yes.
really can be the difference between me as a customer if I choose company A or company B. How well are you
Absolutely.
paying attention? Do I feel seen and known? Y'all, people make buying decisions with their emotions, even though they
Yes.
like to justify it with logic, but it is emotion driven. Back to Harvard, another Harvard professor really found 95% of our decision making takes place in our subconscious, which is where our emotions are. So we
Absolutely.
to be tapping into the customer emotion and Go High Level. It's strange to say automation can help tap into the emotions, but it really is the autonomy of automation is the vehicle, and then emotion is driving it. So like we want emotion to be powering our interaction with the customer, but the way in which we engage with them that is emotion can be delivered through automation. It's like
Absolutely.
we take the time to craft the meaningful text message that they'll receive when they reach out, but then automation delivers that message.
Absolutely. Yeah. Customers, they make a decision emotionally and then they justify it with logic.
Mm, it's so, so true. Seth,
Yep.
I have loved this conversation with you. I know that you are someone that if other businesses would like to start looking into Go High Level, that you do offer those services. And I just wanted to point that out. And I never pitch people on shows, whether it's my Knowing podcast show or this Craft and Calling podcast. However, I do, this is something that's so important. And y'all, I was just thinking about this while Seth was talking. My dad, third generation of a family owned business, I got involved to help him both on the marketing side and business side and sales side, all of that. The involvement of a marketer is so helpful my dad hit his first $1 million last year. And
Oh,
that was just
wow.
the most exciting thing to be able to help him do that. And there's also something about when we have these systems set up, it's much more likely that the next generation will be engaged and desirous to get involved because you've done the work beyond just in the trenches. It's doing the work in the back office, which no one sees, that is not sexy, where no one is actually going to say, hey, thank you for having an automated text sent out. It's annoying and frustrating and not our skill set. So the more that we can bring people in to help us with some of these, it's kind of almost like I'm thinking of that whole analogy of like working out, like you're working out a new muscle to engage with some of these softwares, yet the propensity for growth and scale and even retention, and then maybe even handing off your business to the next generation or being able to sell it. Y'all, we don't think that often. My dad
Mhm.
was in his early 60s and didn't really have an exit plan or a retirement plan, and so that was a big reason why I got involved, where I was like, hey, I'll take it. And I really wanted to, but he was like, I have no other option because my brothers didn't want the business. So he was like, I guess I'll close the doors. And it's like, no, wait. But a lot of these small businesses don't have an exit plan. So the
Yes.
more time that we take to look at the processes of our business, the more it's going to set us up for the next generation to be sold, or maybe we have somebody in our business that can come take it over. But y'all, if we don't have the processes set up, the second we take our hands off the wheel, everything falls apart. We have
Yep.
to have systems and processes in place. And so, Seth, I wasn't planning to say this, but I do want to just do a soft pitch of Seth can help you if you do want to take a look at the automation side of things, because it is so important.
Yeah. And I really appreciate that, Christine. And just to reiterate your point, like there is a whole segment of venture capitalist investors out there that prey upon isn't quite the right term, but
So glad you're bringing
they
it
they see they take advantage of
up.
mom and pop businesses
Yes.
where it was family run, but the owners were the system. They didn't take time to put systems in place. And so when they come to retirement, their business isn't nearly as valuable as it could be
Yes.
because they are the system. And whether it's passing on to the next generation or, exiting the business by selling it, you're doing yourself a huge favor by
Mm.
building a system in place so that you're not the system, so that when you exit the business is no less valuable.
Wow, Seth, that's a mic drop moment. My gosh, I'm so grateful you brought up venture capitalists. That is, so my experience, obviously family owned. I'm super passionate about this. My co-founder of Foundations First, she was the CEO of one of the largest Google Ads agencies. So obviously it's not a home services business, but the exact same thing happened with venture capitalists. They came in, bought the business, and drove it into the ground because they didn't care about culture. They didn't care about the
Hmm.
people. They didn't care about the customers. All they were looking at was the data, and the ethos, the heartbeat of the company was completely lost.
Yes.
And the numbers now show for it. You know, they
Yes.
actually did the very antithesis of what they wanted. And so, oh gosh, guys, like watch out. Oh golly, I care so much about that because and then another business, another home service business, I watched it get acquired. I actually helped them through the process of acquiring or acquisition, and same thing. You know, I visibly watched the president of the company age because of
Mm,
the pressure that he was under, and it was just so sad. This once family owned business that had been around for 35 years was bought, and just everything started kind of crumbling from the inside, and it's been
mm,
pretty devastating to watch.
yeah.
So, you know, guys, there is something about not don't be the system. Don't be the system upon which the success of your company is predicated.
Yes, absolutely.
Seth, thank you. I loved this conversation, and you just had so much to offer from the kind of the personal, introspective point of view about the character that these industries cultivate in us, and then also all the way to exit. So I
Yep.
love this conversation. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Christine. I thoroughly enjoyed this.
Me too. Thank you, my friend.